I'm going to wait for people to join. Thanks everyone for participating today. I know it is cold and icy for those on the East Coast, and I finally figured out how you can make an igloo. I never totally understood that until I stepped outside today, and I was like, oh, it's shards, huge blocks of ice that you pile up that never go away and stay frozen for weeks. So for all of you making igloos and stuck in your houses, I really appreciate your time today. Very excited about this conversation and the groundswell of interest and support in Explore, even a year after this important act was signed into law. And so I'm Jessica Turner, the president of Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, and just thrilled to have you to see the progress we've made. So the legislation was product of decades of hard work and genuine bipartisan leadership, as you all know. It reflects a shared understanding that the outdoor recreation economy is essential, not just to jobs in rural communities, but to our well-being. Today, that outdoor recreation economy contributes 1.2 trillion to the US and supports 5 million jobs nationwide. But beyond that economic impact, plays a vital role in our public health, our community connection, and just ensuring everyone has access to the outdoors and the benefits that it provides. So when you're in, the focus rightly shifts from passage to implementation. The Explore Act gave agencies a clear mandate to modernize how we manage access to public lands and waters across infrastructure, permitting, data, workforce, accessibility for all, and interagency coordination. And turning that mandate into action is certainly complex. It requires sustained leadership, coordination, and capacity. And a great step in this progress was made last week with the House Natural Resources Committee hearing on the subject. I encourage you all to listen in. Wonderful questions, great progress, and it was wonderful to see our congressional champions continue to monitor progress and help support. So in addition to those champions, I also want to take a moment to thank federal employees across the land and water management agencies who are doing the hard work of implementing this law, and their time today and their updates are genuinely appreciated. Their commitment is essential to ensuring Explore Act delivers on the real, on the ground results that we know it can. And your commitment is also essential to connecting with the agencies, seeing where we can be helpful, where public-private partnerships can help us go farther, and connecting with members of Congress if there are gaps in implementation. We are already seeing meaningful impacts and early progress. We're going to hear a lot about that today, from digital park access, improvements to the permitting process, and expanded accessible trails. At the same time, we know much work remains to fully deliver on this promise of the landmark law. And today's discussion is just about that next phase. What's working, where challenges remain, what's needed to accelerate this implementation in year two as we embark in year two, and especially as we're headed into America's 250th anniversary. This moment represents a powerful opportunity to ensure our public lands and waters are accessible and well managed and ready to serve future generations. So I'm really honored to pass it on to one of the Explore Act architects, often behind the scenes. But without her, this bill would certainly not be law. Nelia is the Majority Subcommittee Staff Director for Federal Lands in the House Natural Resources Committee, and we so appreciate everything she did to get us here and everything she's doing to take us further. So with that, I'll pass it over to Nelia.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. And thank you to everybody for having me today. I'd like to thank ORR for hosting this event. I know that Chairman Westerman wishes that he would have been here. He himself is snowed in Arkansas, but he asked me to thank you all for hosting this and really to congratulate you on all of the hard work that everybody on this call put into making sure that the Explore Act could become law 1 year ago, which is so exciting. From improving technology to ensuring veterans can access the outdoors, Explore was truly transformational to our public lands. I like to say that whether you hike, rock climb, hunt, shoot, fish, camp, Explore had something for everybody. And importantly, we know that this law is going to be critical to making sure that we can continue to grow the $1.2 trillion outdoor recreation economy, especially as that economy affects our rural and gateway communities. But we also know that this work is just beginning. As Jess mentioned, we had an oversight hearing last week in the Federal Land Subcommittee, but our work is not done. We plan to host a series of these hearings throughout the year so that we can ensure that Explore remains top of mind as a high priority for people as they are going out to celebrate America's 250th anniversary and hopefully going to our national parks and public lands. Before I turn back, I'd like to echo what Jess said and quickly thank our federal partners who will be here on the call today, who we'll be hearing from shortly. This is a tremendous amount of work that we've given them, and it wouldn't become become a reality on the ground without their hard work and dedication. So I'd like to personally thank them for all the expertise they provided during the formulation of the Explore Act and now as they're on the ground implementing it. So thank you again to all of you. Thank you to ORR for hosting this, and I'll now turn it over to Brandon Brigado, my counterpart.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brandon Brigado from the House Natural Resources Committee Democratic staff. I work for Ranking Member Jared Huffman, staffing the Federal Lands Subcommittee. Thanks to Anelia for the introduction and Jess from OR and ORR for hosting this important webinar. I'm really happy to be here today to talk about the bipartisan momentum behind the Explore Act. The bill came together last Congress on a truly bipartisan basis, thanks to the hard work of the user groups and the federal staff that I'm sure are tuned into this webinar and helped kind of make this possible and are working on implementation of the bill. Recreation is one of those things that brings everyone together. That's not something we always see on the Natural Resources Committee. So it was really exciting to work on this bill in a bipartisan way. And we're excited to track implementation so the Explore Act can do what it's intended, promote access and improve opportunities for high quality outdoor recreation. Although, to be frank, and admittedly, there are some lingering concerns about staff cuts and what might happen with potential reorganization at the federal agencies responsible for Explore Act implementation. This came up at last week's hearing. Democratic members are very concerned about the future of our public land management agencies, and we know the Explore Act will not be successful if agencies don't have the adequate resources and staff. But we are optimistic. The appropriations bill that passed in the last couple of weeks is a promising start, and we're really hoping that it leads to some good results. Outdoor recreation truly is a unifying force. We don't want to lose that, especially now when there's so much disagreement everywhere else. So it's encouraging to see this level of engagement, and we're going to keep working with our Republican colleagues to make sure the Explore Act is a total success. Thank you very much.
I also want to give a special thanks to Brandon. Brandon has been working on some of these issues, I think, since the very beginning, including permitting probably a decade ago, before the idea of a recreation package was even in the air. We were so far from it, and you stuck with us. And a special thanks to Brandon's previous boss, the late Ranking Member Grijalva, who worked with Chairman Westerman hand in glove to get this done, and was one of the biggest things we could celebrate last year, and really will always be part of his legacy. So thanks to Brandon and Ranking Member Grijalva as well. Brandon, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amelia and Brandon and Jess, for helping open up this event. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm guessing a lot of you are at home on a snow day with kids and dogs, so I really appreciate you joining. My name's Umbreen Tariq. I'm a senior program director here at the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, and it's truly my pleasure to moderate today's event. Also, just as a shout out to all the feds, I had a former almost 15-year career as a federal employee, so I'm a huge fan of federal service, and I'm so appreciative of your work and labor. So here we are, almost exactly 1 year after the passage of the Explore Act, and just as excited as we were about its potential to positively impact outdoor recreation across the United States as we were that historic day. We are joined today by senior leaders from across the federal land and water management agencies who have been charged with the critical responsibility of implementing that Explore Act. And for this portion of our program, each agency will present on their experiences of doing just that, as well as sharing key accomplishments, milestones, challenges, and more. So following these presentations, we'll spend the rest of our time together doing a policy deep dive with our esteemed speakers. If they could join me on camera now, that would be terrific. The order of presentations is going to be, as the speakers come on, I'm going to introduce them real quick to you. Gordon Blum, he's the Associate Deputy Chief, USDA Forest Service, Eastern Region, and he's wearing a second presentation hat today. He'll also be presenting on behalf of the Federal Interagency Council on Outdoor Recreation, also referred to as FICOR. And we have Stephan Nofield, the National Park Service Associate Director for Partnerships and Civic Engagement. Kevin Oliver, Division Chief, Recreation and Visitor Services at the Bureau of Land Management. Linh Food, Division Chief, Visitor Services and Communication, National Wildlife Refuge System from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And John Armour from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. He is NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries Director. Okay, that was a mouthful with all of your titles. So I will I'm going to turn it over to Gordie to get this party started, and I'll let you take it away, Gordie.
All right, great. Thank you, Ambreen, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. As Ambreen said, my name is Gordie Blum. I represent the Federal Interagency Council on Outdoor Recreation, or FICOR. I'm the Acting Associate Deputy Chief. Our agency, the Forest Service, is the current chair for FICOR, and I'm really happy to give this overview of our work on the Explore Act. Before I do, I would definitely be remiss if I didn't acknowledge ORR and thank them for their tireless commitment to the passage of the Explore Act. We wouldn't be here celebrating this landmark legislation without you, so I want to share my sincere gratitude to you and Jessica and to Chris. And obviously, I want to thank Congress for passing this landmark act and what it signals to the importance and value of outdoor recreation. To jump right in, Section 113 of the Explore Act directs the Secretary of the Interior to establish FICOR in coordination with the Forest Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, and NOAA. FICOR's role is to improve interagency coordination on outdoor recreation, including implementing programs and investments, advancing research, publishing information, improving access, and engaging partners. We have a three-part structure. Agency principals provide leadership direction and set priorities. A senior level working group coordinates across agencies to advance those priorities, and staff level subgroups develop specific deliverables to support the work. Since enactment of the Explore Act, FICOR has made progress in several key areas. First, on data and digital services. In January, the Interagency Pass program launched digital versions of the America the Beautiful Pass, expanding access in accordance with Section 322. FICOR also established an interagency system for reporting visitation data at the unit level, with an initial report currently under agency review, as directed by Section 132A and F. In addition, we are piloting improved visitation estimation models. 40 example projects are being prepared for public review through an interagency Federal Register notice. Excuse me. Second, on accessibility, Subtitle 2A of the Act directs agencies to assess recreation infrastructure and trails for people with disabilities. In December of last year, the National Park Service engaged the disability community to inform an initial list of potential parks for new accessible recreation opportunities. That list is now under departmental review and is expected to be published later this year. Third, on veterans in the military, FICOR is continuing the work of the Interagency Task Force on Outdoor Recreation for Veterans. The Council is developing a coordinated strategy to improve outdoor rec opportunities for veterans with plans for public review. Looking ahead, we're focused on strengthening partnerships beyond the federal government, planning outreach to state, tribal, and local governments and other interested partners. In 2024, we convened the federal agency foundations to explore options for supporting tribal, state, local, and external partner engagement, and we're planning a tribal information and listening session later this year. In closing, FICOR provides coordinated interagency approach to outdoor recreation that supports improved data, expanded access, and strong partnerships. We appreciate the efforts of our partners in supporting the Explore Act and look forward to continued collaboration. All right, now I'm going to switch over and quickly do the agency report out for the Forest Service. Excuse me. Again, the Forest Service really thanks you for the opportunity today. Some context on the Forest Service. Visitation to our national forests and grasslands has grown substantially over the last 5 years, from approximately 150 million to more than 160 million annual visits. In fiscal year 2023, these visits supported 167,000 jobs and contributed over $16 billion in gross domestic product. We work hard to safeguard and promote access for hunting, fishing, and a host of other recreational uses. A significant amount of this work is possible through the Great America Outdoors Act Legacy Restoration Fund, which was signed into law by President Trump in 2020. Building on the success of the GAOA, the Explore Act has improved recreation opportunities and facilitated greater access to federal public land. In my opening remarks, I shared the great work that FICOR is leading out on. The Forest Service has certainly played an important role. I'm pleased to share a few agency highlights. This includes our work on special uses and the work the team is doing around the provisions in Title III of the Act, which direct the agency to modernize recreation permitting on National Forest System lands. They've coordinated with key external stakeholders to prioritize the most important implementation steps and the development of a phased implementation schedule. The first phase of required permitting changes is scheduled this spring. These changes will reflect the priorities identified by stakeholders, which include needs assessments, temporary use permits, fee determination methods, and adjustments to allocated visitor use days. Another critical provision was the expansion of the Good Neighbor Authority, which importantly extended the authority for tribes and counties to sell federal timber and retain funds as revenue, allowing those retained revenue to be used for recreation services in addition to restoration services, and allowing those services to occur on and off federal land. Shortly after the Act's passage, the agency identified 14 initial early adopter forests to pilot these new GNA authorities. The new authority was used extensively in the wake of Hurricane Helene as we look to work with our partners to rebuild and restore that landscape. A noteworthy example I'm excited to share includes the reconstruction of the Virginia Creeper National Recreation Trail. This trail is an incredibly important resource to this area and serves as an economic driver for Southwest Virginia. 10 new Good Neighbor agreements now include recreation services across the country. In year one, we stood up an implementation team to track, manage, develop, and implement the provisions of the Explore Act. With over 75 provisions in a 10-year timeline, we have a heavy lift ahead because the legislation did not necessarily include additional appropriations or staffing. That being said, it is a definite priority for the agency. I've seen our rec program move mountains around initiatives like this. So while staffing and funding are a challenge, I'm confident we'll continue to make forward momentum on this landmark legislation. And with that, I'd like to pass it to Stephan Nofield, my colleague over at the National Park Service.
Hey, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. And I want to just start by saying thanks, Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, for hosting the forum about the implementation of the Explore Act. To our agencies, the Explore Act represents one of the most significant pieces of outdoor recreation legislation in recent years. And it provides both kind of a practical and a visionary approach with the land management agencies. Especially on things of expanding access to the outdoor experience, strengthening the recreation initiative, improving visitor services, supporting gateway communities, and to ensure our public lands remain welcoming, sustainable, and accessible for generations to come. And for those folks in the audience, just like my counterpart, Gordie, I know you like some numbers, so let me give you some. First off, Americans continue to value their public lands, and this is demonstrated by the 332 million recreation visits to 433 units of our national park system. And in communities adjacent to public lands, federal lands, these lands are community assets. And as part of that community assets, visitors to those gateway communities contributed $29 billion in their economy in fiscal year 2024. But even more important is where are we getting the money to invest in parks, conservation areas, and outdoor recreation at both the local, regional, and with states and tribal? It's the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And just an example, in 2025, the National Park Service working with the staff from 50 states and 6 territories, were able to invest in 1 year $1.2 billion in renovating, developing parks, conservation areas, and outdoor recreation from the Land and Water Conservation Fund and the required match for those. And in addition to those gateway communities, to ensure that they have a voice in the stewardship of the adjacent national parklands, the Park Service has designated a gateway coordinator at each park to ensure that the agency is engaged with the community leaders on those shared issues and opportunities. The Explore Act, in the light of the National Park Service, we see improvements and investments in 3 different ways. The first, the National Park Service has a major responsibility to improve visitor access and the quality of outdoor recreation experiences. The Explore Act recognizes that recreation isn't just an accessory to conservation, it's really the primary way that Americans engage with public lands. And so the Park Service, working with my counterparts of other land management agencies, are working to improve the trip planning experience, enhancing visitor services, evolving a stronger recreation infrastructure, and improving public access. And with public access improvements, it includes supporting activities such as hunting, fishing, and other traditional outdoor recreation uses where there is appropriate. So that's the first thing. The second thing, the Explore Act elevates the importance of partnerships and gateway communities. And in this area, the National Park Service is uniquely positioned to lead. We long ago recognized that national parks don't exist in isolation. They are part of that broader landscape and communities, such as gateway towns, tribal nations, counties, and regional partners who both experience the benefits and the pressure of public visitation. The Explore Act provides new emphasis for improving coordination between the parks and the communities that surround them. So the third pathway that the Explore Act helps is directs the National Park Service to modernize and strengthen the way we deliver recreation assistance nationwide. So beyond managing parks themselves, the National Park Service serves the country through national assistance programs like the Land and Water Conservation Fund, the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program, the heritage areas, the national trails, the wild and scenic rivers, and the outdoor recreation legacy partnerships. It's through these programs that the Park Service helps communities build parks, restore rivers, develop trail networks, and preserve cultural landscapes. The Explore Act reinforces the importance of these programs, especially focusing on communities that are underserved by parks and underserved by access to outdoor recreation opportunities. So for an example, the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership, often referred to as ORLIP, is permanently authorized and codified in the Explore Act. And this will ensure that cities across America can continue creating these close to home recreation opportunities for families who may not even have easy access to our federal or state public lands. So just wrapping up here is ultimately the Explore Act is an opportunity for federal land managers to build on what we do best, and that's serving the American people through conservation, recreation, and partnerships. I just once again want to thank Outdoor Recreation Roundtable for your leadership, your collaboration, your shared commitment to ensuring that America's public lands remain accessible, welcoming, and protected. Thanks. Oh, so
Thank you so much. And up next, we have Kevin Oliver. Please.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Great to be here. Kevin Oliver, Division Chief for Bureau of Land Management, Headquarters, Division of Recreation and Visitor Services. So I'm going to jump off with broadly, the BLM jumped on organization early last year, early February. We noticed, as Gordie mentioned, there's 70 provisions. There's so many detailed requirements. And this wasn't just a recreation program, contracting and grants and agreements and so many other facets. So we organize at headquarters. We always know who is responsible for which section or piece of a section, what the milestones are, and what the deliverable targets are. So we've been working on that since last year, and that's been paying great dividends. And so we have a regular implementation coordination meetings with the department, as across all the interior teams, we're implementing Secretary Order 3435, which is specifically making it a priority for our bureaus to implement the Explore Act. Perhaps the biggest announcement from the BLM is that this coming Monday, we will begin accepting applications and processing special recreation permit applications that are Title III Explore Act compliant using interim guidance. I can't say enough how monumental a step forward this is. As many of you know, Title III has got a lot of detailed changes, and we've been working very hard to make them functional and operational. And we are looking forward to now interacting with outfitters and guides to begin processing and issuing those permits. We're moving from 4 permit types to 9 permit types as specified under the law, emphasizing the use of categorical exclusions to expedite NEPA compliance. And, these are important entities, the outfitters and guides, increase access to public lands by helping. I grew up in the city, helping people that live in row houses get out on rafts and horseback and do amazing things on the public lands that they need, perhaps that little opportunity to do so through outfitters and guides. BLM will be pointing to Raptor, our online recreation permitting system, to implement this. And so we've had proven success. We've issued over 100 special recreation permits under the past processes. We've been working since last May with the programmers to update that system. We're excited to open it up on Monday for Title III permit applications. 2 more things. Range access is important. Target shooting is at Section 123. We are working very hard to get our list out under that provision in early March. Hopefully, we do have a full inventory, and we want to share that with the public. And we're going beyond the law to not only follow through with the requirements, but we're also asking beyond the law's requirements, where do we need more shooting ranges? We may have a qualifying range, but where do we need more shooting ranges to meet the intent of the law? Finally, recreation access to public lands is important, and especially accessible access. So we are similarly hoping to release in March or April our list of accessible recreation sites and accessible recreation trails. That data calls out to the states as we're identifying those as well. And so with that, I'll close, and we'll touch more on these things in the panel. And I think we're up with, is it Linh Fu, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service? Thanks.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to share a little bit about Fish and Wildlife Service and our role in the Explore Act. In the interest of time, I'll keep this a little bit more high level, and welcome the discussion later. So the Fish and Wildlife Service, we are one of the only agencies whose mission is wildlife conservation, and to fulfill this mission, the National Wildlife Refuge System manages over 573 refuges across every state and territory, and that totals 95 million acres. Wildlife conservation drives everything we do, and the purposes for which each refuge is established, and the recreational activities we offer, and the resource management tools we use. Our 5-year national visitor survey shows that 82% of visitors to national wildlife refuges are local, and that reinforces our role as a gateway to wildlife-dependent recreation. In FY25, this includes 43.1 million visits for wildlife observation and photography, 8.3 million visits for fishing, 2.7 million environmental education and nature program visitors, and 2.6 million hunting visits. Over the past year, we've worked to expand hunting opportunities where compatible with refuge purposes and ensuring access while maintaining conservation priorities. So at the heart of our mission is working with others to protect wildlife for the benefit of the American people. And in the context of outdoor recreation, we develop programs and opportunities by engaging local communities and strengthening our partnerships. I wanted to highlight a few of these partnerships. In collaboration with organizations such as Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Freedom Hunters, and Union Sportsmen's Alliance, We supported environmental education, mentored veterans and youth hunts, habitat restoration, hunting and photography blind construction, fishing docks, trails, and repairs to pavilions, boardwalks, and safety railings. These partnerships are vital. They leverage volunteer labor and donated resources to accomplish projects that we might otherwise be really impossible. Strengthening conservation, fostering community engagement, and supporting veterans and youth programs, and ensuring sustainable hunting and fishing opportunities for future generations is the core of our mission. Supporting the Explore Act is really central to these efforts. In the past year, we've issued guidance on filming and photography on Fish and Wildlife Service lands in line with the Act's provision. We've expanded online access to hunting permits, and we've worked closely with federal partners to improve recreation visitation data frameworks, as Gordie mentioned in his opening remarks. We will continue to participate in these FICOR efforts. Looking ahead, we plan to make outdoor recreation more accessible by improving hunting and photography blinds, fishing piers, and trails. We remain committed to collaborating with the states, tribes, NGOs, and federal partners to advance these goals. Thanks for the opportunity.
Up next, we have John.
All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Armour. I am the director of the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries for NOAA, and huge thanks to ORNR for this putting this webinar on. I'm really honored to be here representing NOAA. Chris, if you could go to the next slide, actually the next one after that. There we go. Thanks, everybody. Just a quick little bit of context sharing for some of you might be wondering, why is NOAA on this panel? The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, as it's affectionately known, is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, federal, and we're a federal agency that studies and protects oceans, atmosphere, coastal ecosystems, providing critical weather and environmental data. And there's two components of NOAA that really support NOAA's implementation of the Explore Act and supports FICOR, and that's the National Ocean Service and the National Marine Fisheries Service. Everybody knows about the National Weather Service, of course, but the other parts of NOAA, Ocean Service and Fisheries Service, also support this particular part of NOAA's responsibilities. Can you go to the next? So within the National Ocean Service, the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries protects over 629,000 square miles of America's oceans and Great Lakes. These are like national parks and national wildlife refuges. They're just underwater in the ocean and in the Great Lakes. The vast majority of these waters are open to recreational fishing, boating, diving, surfing, birding, wildlife viewing, what have you. And these are great places to connect with nature, wildlife, and as well as our past. Many of the National Marine Sanctuaries protect historic shipwrecks like the USS Monitor off the coast of North Carolina. NOAA's management philosophy for these spaces is to encourage people to get into them and enjoy them. And to better connect with the communities that we serve, we also support citizen advisory councils for every sanctuary in the National Marine Sanctuary System. That includes about 600 people who volunteer their time to give NOAA advice about managing these places, which includes many representatives from the recreational fishing and recreation community to support these places. Next slide, please, Chris. Okay, so specific to the Explore Act, some of the things that, right there. Some of the things that we're doing through FICOR, NOAA is contributing to a report that's compiling visitation data for 2024. We're looking to do that again and support that for 2025. During the discussion section, I'll probably get into some of the challenges we're facing there. Also, NOAA is participating in a pilot project, again, a requirement of the Explore Act to collect visitation data at 10 sites within the National Marine Sanctuary System. We also support veteran access to outdoor recreation through partnerships with veterans organizations. In particular, and this is what the picture on the slide is, we are really proud of our collaboration with Force Blue. And Force Blue has what they're calling the National Marine Sanctuaries Tour of Duty program, which is they're getting special combat veterans into National Marine Sanctuaries doing things like coral planting, buoy installation, kelp bed monitoring, We also work with private organizations like National Park Trust and the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation to provide military service members, veterans, and their families with meaningful outdoor experiences that combine recreational fishing with education about marine ecosystems and stewardship. And it really fosters connection and learning in the community while reinforcing sustainable fishing practices. I also want to highlight our Bristol Bay Fly Fishing Guide Academy. This really merges salmon and river education with recreation and conservation principles to educate and engage and inspire Bristol Bay young adults to become leaders in salmon stewardship and prepare for jobs on healthy salmon in their home rivers. So NOAA Fisheries supports this program by providing funding and expertise to teach participants about fish habitat, species identification, responsible catch and release practices, et cetera. And then just the last thing is, in NOAA, we're really big on sort of the next generation of folks using our ocean and Great Lakes. So we're also supporting the Every Kid Outdoors program in both the National Marine Sanctuary System and the National Estuarine Research Reserve System. So we're very proud of that work. Sorry, that was a lot in a little bit of time, but Ambreen, back to you to start the discussion.
Thank you all so much. I know you have a tremendous amount of things on your plate, so we really appreciate you taking the time to come here and share these presentations, and would love to just get into some more specifics. So for the interest of time, I'm going to jump right in. And for the next 20 minutes, we'll be going into these details in our policy deep dive. So the first question I want for the whole panel, because of Explore, what data tools or methodologies are agencies using today or will use soon that are actually improving visitor flow, safety, or experience, and which are delivering measurable results? Yep, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I think John, oh yeah, I'll go ahead. So the things that I'm seeing in BLM, and I think across some of our sister agencies, that is working right now, and we've been making great strides on, are accessible trails and rec sites. The one thing we've learned, perhaps we learned a little too late, but we're on it now, is that if you're a person with a disability, the data we shared with you didn't give you enough to plan a great day out in the out of doors. You didn't have detailed information about that picnic site or about that trail, about that recreation area. Was there gravel? Was there dirt? What were the obstructions? Are there ramps and things like that? And so I think we're really proud to see that, and we're growing that every day. We have staff working on it every day, increasing the number of rec sites that have better information, so the person that deals with these disabilities can actually go out and have a high confidence that they're going to have a good day and they're going to encounter what they expect, and they understand how to navigate that. And I would say we need to make more strides on that with trails within the agency. We need to continue doing that. And then similarly with range access, shooting range access, we're going to have interactive mapping. So again, people can find their sites better and things like that. So I think those are some of the tools that are happening right now, but there are many other tools in development that I'll pass along.
Thank you. How about you, John?
Yeah, I really want to just focus on our mooring buoys that we install in national marine sanctuaries. In the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary alone, we have over 800 buoys for the 4,500 square mile area. And these buoys are really critical. They help boaters access really popular areas of the sanctuary, such as great coral reef sites, without having to throw an anchor overboard. So that really helps people get into the sanctuary without actually damaging some of the places that they're there to protect. And so NOAA, recognizes that the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary itself supports a $2 billion a year regional economy and 20,000 jobs. And so having these buoys and maintaining those buoys really helps to facilitate access. So we're really kind of proud of that work. I'll end it there.
How about you, Stephan?
Yeah, I got a couple things. One is the tools and the methodologies are considering, these gateway community coordinators I referred to as providing a voice in those communities on land management, the service first agreement, the cooperative the cooperative agreements, the good neighbor authorities. All these are tools that we're just now beginning to perfect and see how they apply in actually providing for non-federal participation in land management stewardship. The other thing that I thought kind of fits here is the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership that is codified in the Explore Act. The challenge is aligning the Explore Act with other related legislation that ties, in this case, to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And so it's maybe having to go back and look at those a little bit, at what's not happening, that can't happen. The example with the ORLET program is dealing with the sovereignty of tribes versus having to go through a state process, which is set up in the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So the tools that we have, we're exploring how they work, and it's also going back and maybe having to do some tweaks to the act.
Thank you so much. This next question I would love to address again to our group. How can industry and tech partners help agencies build digital tools that scale across agencies without fragmenting systems or creating conflicts? Would love all of your input on this.
So I'll go first. I think, one of the concepts that I'd like to share that it would be great if we could make traction on. We have so many great technology companies, and pretty much everybody going in the outdoors these days has a smartphone. Perhaps not all, but many. If we could get these tracking companies, you can think of some of the big names like All Trails, Onyx, and Strava, but there are many others, to join together in a non-competitive spirit to develop a unified portal for federal recreation managers and state recreation managers to be able to see that unified data and better understand the visitation to their rec sites, understand where they might need to put more staff because they could see an uptick in activity, or even the portal would work both ways, where a land management agency could go in and say, hey, this trail's closed or this parking area is closed, we're reconstructing it, and things like that. Right now, I think it's disjunct and we have to go into each portal and work with each entity. So that would be a great unified concept. I think my colleague Linh also recommended industry help with accessible trails and rec sites. We have so much to do in being able to describe our trails to understand accessibility and what types of access and people with disabilities, again, and their unique tools to get on those trails. So help us really do work with that data. And then finally, connecting, I think Gordie mentioned this, connecting those external entities at the highest levels with our agencies and our information teams, that we know we have to keep our data secure and our systems secure. So we really need the attention of the leaders in industry and the leaders in our departments to work on opening the gates and protecting Privacy Act information, all those important things, but getting to the end state where we have this shareable information, but it's protected. Thank you.
I actually, this is such an excellent point that you've made. And in fact, this is at the center of a lot of the work that we're doing at ORR. And I think many of you were able to see that in October of last year when we had our first ever summit on rec tech and just trying to understand the issues around interoperability. So this is such a critical question and your answer is incredibly helpful. Does anyone else want to help answer this question and give us some insights to our members and especially the audience interested in this question? We can move on to the next one.
John had one.
Oh, please jump in.
Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Amber. I don't know if I have any insights necessarily, but I can just talk about some of the challenges that we have with such a vast and remote area. One of the biggest challenges we have is just knowing who's using these spaces, how many people are using them, what are they using them for. And so it is exciting in Explore Act, having that prompt to really focus on visitation has been helpful. And also, we really do need industry and technology assistance. And how on earth do we wrap our minds around 629,000 square miles of ocean and trying to understand who's using, who's recreating, what do they need to have a better experience? What do they need for better access? So one of the things we're looking at is using satellites and using passive acoustics and using autonomous uncrewed systems and things like that. So I don't necessarily have any insights, but I can articulate the problem is we really do need industry help there. It's a massive problem and it's a massive undertaking, and just would really love any kind of support or ideas folks have on that one.
Absolutely. And that's why, at ORR, we're so excited to work with FICOR, because this is the kind of issue that our members are also interested in and want to tackle. I think there are a lot of technological solutions there, but through our coordination and collaboration, I think we're seeing the future of rec tech and having recreation and technology work together to expand access for everyone. My next question is sort of a two-part question. Where do agencies see the greatest opportunity for permitting timelines to shorten? And what parts of the permitting process remain fragmented or overly analog? And what are the main areas for reasons those areas haven't yet modernized? So really looking at permitting from the perspective of opportunities, and also where are those gaps? Gordie, did you want to jump in on that?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind for us, and we've got some catching up to do, is we really do need to develop an online application system. It's similar to where Interior and the BLM are headed. And we do want to meet the intent of the act and have this by the January 2028 deadline. But again, that will just help with transparency, workflow. We've got a cumbersome, antiquated system, and we know we need to modernize that. We also later this year want to start implementing the 5-year review and use of allocation. It's going to be a switch where we're going to be possibly assigning up to 125% of actual use from the original allocations. That'll replace our previous policy and should accelerate availability of unused visitor use days and bring more clarity to visitor use day permits. I can pause there. I have other things, but I'll pause for now.
Thank you, Gordie. I would also love to hear your perspective, Stephan.
Yeah, on a more simplified ground, it's being able to take filming in national parks is a cumbersome permitting process that we've been working on to refine and shorten the timeline and identify on the context and intensity of that filming. If it's a large commercial, then there's impacts related to that will need to be addressed in the permitting process. But if you have a group of 8 or smaller doing a more simplified film, we're trying to streamline the permitting process and then put those differences out on a website so the public can understand what's required in the filming permits. Yeah, that's what I have.
Great. Last call.
I do have one more. And so I think it's across the Department of Interior that we're working to digitalize, not so much as permitting, but providing access to park passes and to make those digital so they're easily able to obtain and be part of that trip planning process and link it to that trip planning process.
That's
Thanks.
very helpful. For our next question, I'm hoping, Lynn, you could jump in first, but what are the major barriers to interoperability right now? And where has cross-agency data sharing or system interoperability actually worked, even at a small scale?
I can provide an example of what we've done here at U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We maintain a publicly accessible open data portal via ArcGIS Hub, and that provides standardized data sets. This includes geospatial layers for wetlands, hydrology, riparian areas. Kind of thinking upon building upon that, using APIs and facilitating cross-agency and public integration, I think would be very helpful in having the base data that we can then use and leverage, support from industries to build upon, additional information that would improve visitor experience. So those are some ideas and some opportunities where we can continue to collaborate with industry.
Thank you, Lynn. John, did you want to add anything to it?
I will just say, well, I really appreciate Lynn's response there. I just want to say that, we have a number of, really great relationships with other federal agencies, including Fish and Wildlife Service and Park Service, where we have adjacent areas that we're responsible for with parks and refuges. And so at the local level, I think we really enjoy a lot of really good relationships. And so I think anything we can do to empower those and sort of raise them up to sort of the national level, I think it's something NOAA would be, very supportive of.
And I know, Kevin, you were also touching on this a little bit earlier, talking about interoperability of data systems. I was wondering if you had any more thoughts on that.
I don't think so. In the interest of time, it really is the idea of, all the agencies, including state recreation agencies, who are very powerful and important partners to be able to, give and share information both ways, not just receive it, but also deliver it to the public through these great external entities. So certainly looking forward, and I'm sure we'll knock down some barriers there and get some great things done with the Explore Act's heavy emphasis and that prioritization within the federal team.
Also a priority for us, just like you said, Kevin, is our work with the states, especially with the state data, right? How can we get that synergy between state and federal data to line up to be live so that businesses and recreationists can rely on it in time? My last question for the group, I'm going to just throw it out there for everyone, is what has actually changed on the ground for visitors with disabilities and veterans since enactment, and what still needs to happen to fully implement the Explore Act's accessibility provisions on these?
I guess at the risk of repeating a little bit, but it's so important, is that I already mentioned we're doing a much better job of providing that site-specific information so that before they go, they can help understand, will they be able to have a good day on the land, and are their disability needs being met on a particular location. But I think, again, for the BLM, tackling the trail-specific accessibility information, because that gets a lot more complex. Not only do we need the trail grade, but we need specific grade challenges that they might encounter, or specific obstacle challenges, potential turnaround points for some of these unique tools that we find beyond wheelchairs. We have unique mobility devices that are being developed. So, helping us to deliver that is probably one of the most important, things we're intending to follow through on. Thank you.
Go ahead, Gordie.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead. My screen is limited, so I can't see your hands, but I'll let you work it out.
Gordie, I'll go to you first, and then I'll follow up.
Oh, all right. Well, specifically to the act, we're excited about it. Again, just raised obviously awareness, visibility. Again, doing the assessment, identifying, each of our regions. We've got 3 trails identified and 2 developed sites per region that we're working towards, increasing opportunities. But I think even beyond that, going back to a point Kevin made right from the get-go, it's increased awareness and opportunity. And so similar to, again, Interior, playing a little bit of catch-up here, but we're excited that we're going to be rolling out a One National Forest and Grasslands app, again, which is just a one-stop shop on your phone, where to go, what to do, how to get there, how to prepare, what might be in the area, things to consider, how to be safe, which again, I think opens the door, for all. And again, I look to the Explore Act that again help us solidify with agency and department leadership the need to have real-time transparent information like that. And then in terms of veterans, building off the work that the VA Compact did, but again, that the Explore Act really solidified. What I used to see a lot is some great work going on, but it was very localized, regionalized. It happened to be because a park or national forest or what have you is in proximity to a base, military installation, and it just evolved. There wasn't that centralized information flow that identified, here's the real opportunity. And we're just seeing that take place now, being able to more coordinate in an intentional manner with the Department of Defense and others, and really making veterans aware of these opportunities. And so the number of success stories is growing exponentially, which is just such a great thing to see for our veterans transitioning back from some difficult circumstances.
Absolutely. And you know, the emphasis in Explore about vets as well as military families, which I think is extremely important for the health of the family and mental health. Please, John, go ahead.
That is really great. We're doing some of that stuff in the ocean as well with veterans. But one thought just came to mind as our visitor centers, and as we work to update our visitor centers, we're really trying to be sensitive to people with sensory, being inclusive of people with sensory issues, sound, light, noise, making things very tactile. So those are things that we're trying to do to be sensitive to all the folks that are using coming into our visitor centers.
Yeah, and I just saw this morning that one of my favorite parks, Bryce National Park, is now fully accessible on their trails, and it's just so exciting to see the promise of accessibility for the future of all Americans. And now that we're almost to the end, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us today, to our fearless federal leaders for taking the time out of your very busy schedules and sharing these valuable insights. Hopefully, this is just the beginning of more conversations. And for the audience, please check out ORR's website. We'll be tracking updates about implementation and progress on the Explore front. Also, this recording will be on our website as well, so please stay tuned for that. And I want to thank you all for joining and your interest in this, and to the speakers and the federal employees doing all the hard work of the implementation. And a huge thank you to everyone who joined us today. We really appreciate your time and engagement, and we look forward to continuing this work with you.
Thanks, everyone.